Alright, Schlockmeister fans, another Bob Clark movie. This one's called Death Dream. Let's check it out. Our movie starts in the Vietnam War. This is Andy, and he's about to get shot. The Brooks family gets the bad news.
Sorry, Charlie. If there's anything I can do. Andy.
Oh, God! No! It's a lie! It's a lie! It's a lie!
That night, Mama does some wishing.
You're alive. I know. I can feel it.
Hey, soldier, where you headed? Come on, hop aboard.
So then we have this unseen soldier hitching a ride with a truck driver. Later on, still that night, somebody is paying a visit to the Brooks house.
Daddy, I heard something downstairs.
You guessed it, their dead son Andy has come home.
Andy! Andy! Actually sent us a telegram telling us that you were killed.
They actually said that my son was dead.
I was.
Well, remember that truck driver who picked up an unseen soldier? He didn't last through the night.
Every 5 minutes, pray all day long. It's a miracle, Andy. A real miracle.
But Andy doesn't quite seem himself at home.
Imagine the terrible things that he must have seen.
I went through it too, but when I came back, I didn't act like
Well,
that.
you're not Andy. You don't have the same kind of sensitivity.
Like Andy doesn't seem quite right at all.
Welcome home, Andy.
He spends a lot of his time in a rocking
Is this a
chair.
personal call, Doc, or a professional one?
Either one. Truck driver was murdered out on the highway Wednesday night. Some witnesses are saying that he was carrying a hitchhiker, a soldier.
Back door. Mother gave him the keys.
Christine!
Andy left. He's not happy about it.
Christine! You let him go!
Why not? I'd leave too if my father came home drunk.
Well, what he did was he left and he followed the doctor.
I came for my checkup.
I'm expected at the hospital right now, Andy. How about tomorrow?
Now, in your office.
Andy doesn't have a pulse.
I don't understand.
No heartbeat either.
Heartbeat, Doc. No heartbeat.
You killed that truck driver.
I died for you, Doc.
He then attacks the doc, kills him, stabs him with a syringe. Repeatedly. Then he uses that syringe to take out the doc's blood, which he turns around and injects into himself. Clearly he must be some sort of vampire or something, or a vampire-like thing, which makes him look young again.
Joanne, will you quit being so stubborn?
No, I've had it with blind date.
They want her to go out with Andy.
Oh,
Oh, a special blind date.
You wouldn't be mixed up in any kind of trouble like that, would you?
I don't have any troubles at all, Dad.
Well, I didn't think you could be, but Doc said something about a soldier.
Anyway, Andy puts on his sunglasses and is ready for his date. They're going to a drive-in theater, of course. She notices that his skin seems to be rotting away on his wrist.
I want you to understand that there is somebody else. I understand.
No one else.
Well, as she's talking to him, a little thing opens up on his head and he starts leaking out some fluid. Clearly he's aging again and needs some more blood, quickly. When his sister and her boyfriend come back to the car, he's really changed now. He then chokes and kills that guy. And then he runs over a poor guy. He ends up driving back home where his dad knows that there's a problem. His dad can't shoot him though. And his mom helps him out.
Alright, hold it right there.
But that doesn't stop him. He tells his mom to drive to the cemetery. They're able to escape, and that's where they go. They head to a makeshift grave that he apparently made himself, for himself, and even scratched his name on the gravestone, and then he tries to pile dirt on top of himself. His mother helps him bury himself, and then whatever dead life he has in him gives out. And that's our film. All right, let's talk about the Bob Clark directed movie Death Dream. It's a movie I have in my collection. I have a pre-recorded VHS tape of it. I inherited it from my Schlockmeister brother Jeff in the mid-90s, actually early 2000s I think it was. I'd seen the movie. I think I borrowed it from him in the mid-90s. That was the first time I'd seen it, in spite of the fact that in the 80s, when I was copying movies, renting them and copying them, I'd see the trailer for this movie quite a bit at the end of other tapes. But I never had this movie in any of my video stores, so I never saw it until he picked it up, and then I saw it years later. So, but anyway, I've seen it. I think this is the third time I've seen this movie, and it's a pretty darn good one, actually. It starts off in the Vietnam War. There's a guy named Andy who gets killed. Well, the army comes home and they tell him, they inform the family of his death, and they're devastated, of course. And that night, the mom stays up and lights a candle and says some weird stuff, something to the fact of, I know you're not dead, I know you're not dead, whatever. Well, of course, the next day, their son, or I don't know how many days later it was, their son comes home. He just walks in and he's alive, and they're shocked to see him, and they think the army just made a mistake, whatever. So they welcome him back home, and everything seems to be fine, except Andy doesn't seem quite himself. He seems distant. He's always rocking in a rocking chair. At one point, he grabs the family dog and chokes it, lifts it up over his head, and chokes the damn thing and tosses it aside. Clearly, he's not right. A soldier had recently hitchhiked with a truck driver and killed the truck driver. We didn't see who that soldier was. Clearly, we know it's Andy, though. So the police are looking for a soldier. And at one point, Andy goes to the doctor. The doctor can't find a pulse, can't find a heartbeat. And then he can't find his life because Andy kills him. And then he takes a syringe that he used to kill the doctor, takes his blood, takes the doc's blood, and then injects it into himself. So clearly he needs blood or fresh blood to keep himself alive, keep himself looking young and normal. Otherwise his body, his flesh starts to rot away slowly. And I don't know. But anyway, ultimately his father figures out that something's going on, something's wrong, and he ends up pulling a gun on his son the night that he came home from the drive-in theater after he killed a couple more people. And again, he's rotting away, but the father just doesn't have the heart to kill his own son. The mom comes in and tries to help the son, and the father shoots himself. The mother and the son are go outside, then the cops show up. They manage to drive away. They shoot Andy, but he manages to survive it. Nothing happens to him. And mom is driving. Andy's basically telling her to go to the cemetery. They get to the cemetery, and there's a fresh grave that has been partially dug up. And Andy has scrawled his own name on a tombstone, and he crawls into the grave and starts to pile dirt on top of himself, basically saying, you know, I should be dead. I need to be dead. I need to be in the ground. I'm done. Mom starts to help him a little bit. Then the cops show up, and then Andy just kind of gives out, and he dies, or dies again, I guess. And that's how our movie ends. So anyway, that is Death Dream. Now, the on-screen title of this movie was called Dead of Night, not to be confused with that older movie, I think, from 1945 called Dead of Night, which I also have. This is kind of like a monkey's paw situation where they wished him alive, but then there was consequences to that. And but anyway, it's a cool movie. This was filmed, I think, back to back with Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, which I reviewed yesterday by Bob Clark. This one came out in '74, whereas the other one came out in '72. This one is a better film, I think. It's polished, it's well done. It's just creepy. There's an overall creepy vibe to this. It's kind of a spooky film. It's a great horror movie, and something that, you know, could be watched by everybody because it's PG, I assume. There's not a ton of gore in it, although there is some killing. There's no nudity at all, so it's going to be shown on network television as far as I'm concerned. Now, I have the DVD from Blue Underground. I believe this has been released on Blu-ray as well. I'm not sure, but DVD is pretty good because it has some audio commentary from Bob Clark himself. As well as some other things. There's some interviews, and oh yeah, Tom Savini. I think he worked on both of these films as well. Or this may actually, I take it back. I think this was his first film that he worked on. So good deal, Tom. So anyway, that is it. That is Death Dream, otherwise known as Dead of Night. This is one you definitely should have in your collection because it's a pretty damn cool film. I want you to get it if you haven't seen it, although I'm guessing a lot of people already have it, already seen it. But if you haven't, check it out. Click that link to Amazon below and buy it and put it in your collection. Let me know what you think about it. Leave some comments. It's Death Dream. Watch it. Bye.